Well, hello, folks. This is a special edition. That's right, special edition of Student Affairs Live. I'm your host, Eric Stoller, and I'm here today with Jeff Jackson of Break Drink.
Hello, Internet.
And we are here at NASPA Tech, the greatest gathering of student affairs techies in the known universe. This is day number 2 of NASPA Tech. We thought we'd just come in, give a quick broadcast, sort of sample some things that are going on, kind of our reflections, etc., of what's been happening with the event, and just have a little brief conversation. Jeff's going to be monitoring the action on Twitter, so if you have a question for us or you have some feedback, tweet away. The hashtag is #SALive, or if you want, you can also use the Break Drink hashtag, since this is a special edition Break Drink Student Affairs Live Mashup Edition, live from the Marriott Hotel in Newport. Where are we? Newport, Rhode Island.
Yes. Room
Here.
number 5.
We're not saying it's an undisclosed location of the studio, because we can't tell people where we're located, because then they'll just knock on the door and interrupt the studio, right?
That is true.
So Jeff's going to be tracking your questions. He's got like a font size 7 here, it looks like, on his laptop, so I have no idea what's going down there. Oh, thanks a lot. So Jeff, what are your thoughts so far with NASPA Tech? What are your impressions?
First of all, Newport, not the easiest place to get to, and
Right.
San Antonio was 70 degrees and sunny yesterday, my hometown.
Mm-hmm. Flip-flops, right?
And it was like 3 degrees and rainy and cold yesterday. Actually, it wasn't 3 degrees, but it was cold. But today's sunny. Is very, very beautiful town here in Newport. So nice.
It's very, very oceanic. You know, we've got
Yes.
a lot of naval vessels.
Right through these curtains is the ocean. I guess
Literally,
it's the
I
ocean.
mean, we're like a step away from the ocean, or at least a harbor, I guess.
So that was the first impression.
Okay.
Overall, this conference could have been a flop as far as sessions goes and speakers goes, and I would be happy because it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the kind of historic moment of this, I'm assuming the first. Besides the unconferences, like the first big professionally sponsored student affairs technology conference, and so it's pretty huge, and it's 100 and almost 200 people.
170 people.
Yeah, 170. So that's legit.
It's extremely legit. One might even say totes legit. I think that for me, this is sort of the realization of a dream for a lot of folks. You know, the student affairs techie crowd was sort of extremely small, and we've been extremely vocal, and I think that the folks at NASPA, kudos to them for putting this on. I think that it took a lot of guts to kind of create this space, create this first opportunity for us to have a conference like this. And you've got student affairs IT directors, you've got folks who work in all sorts of different functional areas, and we've got, I think, at least 3 or 4 VPs here, lots of NASPA staff, and for the first one, I think the sessions are going really well.
Yeah, it was interesting this morning. I forgot who asked, but someone asked how many people are dedicated technology in student affairs division. Maybe 10 people.
It was really small. Showing of hands.
Raised their hand, and then they said how many of you do it at least part time, 50% of your duties, and maybe like 2 people raised their hand. Mm-hmm. So it's primarily practitioners. It's the people who it's not their main part of their job, but they're fitting it in there. So it's
the extra hat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Other duties has a sign.
And Kevin Kruger, he's sort of second in command at NASPA. He was talking earlier this morning. He asked people to do a show of hands on who has had sort of student affairs technology or student affairs communications in their graduate classes.
Yeah.
And the answer was nobody.
Yeah. One person went kind of like,
yeah. I mean,
so
it was
like half a person, really.
0.5 of a person out of 170. I don't know what that percentile is, but it's really small. And I think that, you're watching us while we're watching it? Okay, very meta of you. Yeah, you should turn that off. You're going to kill our bandwidth.
Yes, sorry.
The Marriott pipe is only so large. I mean, we're all connected at this point. So, folks, again, the hashtag. Pause. Yeah, do we have any hashtag action here?
Someone said good luck with today's show.
Okay, that's good.
Retweets from Joe.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Awesome. So, that's the thing. Our audience, the folks that watch breakdrink.com, or listen to the podcast, and watch Student Affairs Live, they're here in sessions while we're not, just because we thought we'd have to squeeze this in when we could, because it's sort of a historic moment in many ways. I mean, you've got Ed Cabellon, who is leading a session, I think, later on in the day. Ed's on his video series. Jeff has done Break Drink. They've got like 80 different podcasts around the student affairs world.
79.
79, okay, I was a little exaggerative. And then you've got, Student Affairs Live, and we're still relatively new in this scene, but we're all here in this space, and I think that says a lot.
Yeah, and also historic moment. Yesterday, Eric and I were actually in the same place, same time, and met each other for the first time.
Right, and the space-time continuum did not, deconstruct. I thought, us in the same place, you never know.
Joe is actually in the lobby watching.
Oh, nice.
So, yes.
He's watching us a couple stories down, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I think maybe just recap some of the sessions that you did, the session you did, and the sessions you've gone to.
Well, I did a session to talk about using tools. I actually did it with Laura Pasquini, who was in Denton at the time. Mm-hmm. We use Google plus Hangouts with extras, so it's a new thing that rolled out. So I had Laura's picture on the screen, our audience picture on the screen, and our presentation we use Google Docs.
Nice.
The Google presenter in Google Docs. So we had all that on the screen. Cool. And then we had a bit.ly link to a Google Doc we created for their presentation. So, we don't have handouts, we don't have all of that stuff. We wanted to be able to take notes of what we were talking about without having the big, big marker board or...
Mm-hmm. Keep track of the conversation.
Yeah, and so we took notes on the Google Doc. Everyone could contribute into it at the same time, and so nice. Everyone got the link. We tweeted it out later on. So it went really well. Some really great questions were in there. People at various levels of what they're doing online, different stages. Stuart Brown was there.
Right, Stuart Brown of studentaffairs.com.
Yeah, and sometimes I forget to recognize him, but he was doing this long before I was doing stuff, and he has a good podcast going on now.
Yeah, his work definitely is groundbreaking too.
Yeah.
As an aside, I think that studentaffairs.com served as the platform for a lot of us to get the word out about student affairs and technology long before anyone else was talking about it, thinking about it, writing about it, etc. So kudos to Stuart Brown of studentaffairs.com.
And you got to meet, Joe Ganese for the first time, and Jenna and Cindy Kane, and I mean, so many people I got to meet for the first time. It was kind of cool, and Joe, and it's almost, I feel like we should, the first 5 minutes of every session should be, okay, who needs to meet for the first time?
Right.
Because as people were talking in the session, it's like, oh, that's Jennifer
life.
Keegan. Yeah, that's and so I feel we should have that thing out there.
Absolutely. It looks like, what do we got here? Lisa Endersby feels like waving at us while she's watching. And yes, Lisa.
High five, Lisa.
Hey, nice to see you, Lisa. And yes, that is nerdy.
Yes.
Right, exactly. So we sort of have the good and evil here going on.
I feel you're much taller than me sitting down.
I don't know why, man. I'm all leg. I have no upper giving.
I think this is the camera angle.
I did that on purpose.
The height.
Yeah, it's my camera. Yeah. It's like a circus mirror.
We did determine between me, you, and Joe, Ed would be the point guard of the basketball team.
This is true. The SA basketball hashtag forthcoming.
Yeah.
So I guess the session I did yesterday was an unsession, which, by the way, student affairs folks, if you're out there listening or watching, the unsession format is not a passive sit back, relax, and sort of be spoon-fed information. It is about a participatory session that's facilitated by someone, but you're engaged, you're conversing, you're sharing ideas, and I think that my unsession, I did one on student affairs communications and student affairs advancement or development, whatever you want to call it, as being an emerging area in the field. And I think folks were sort of expecting me to do a lot more talking, and I went in the middle of the room and basically just said, okay, we're all going to share, we're all going to talk. Are you doing this at your school or are you not? And I love the idea of that Google Doc. I was trying to get folks to tweet out things. Some people were saying, hey, where is that Student Affairs and Technology or that Student Affairs and Communications book, since we don't have it? Yeah. And they tweeted it at Josie Bass. And then this morning, some folks were coming up to us saying, hey, we saw that tweet. That might be something that we could do down the road.
So you got a book deal out of this?
Not a book deal, nothing confirmed, but at least the dialogue is taking place, right? It's something that people are saying is important. What other sessions did you go to?
So how did that work in yours? Good participation in your crowd?
I think anytime you're introducing a concept that is relatively new or controversial, I mean, student affairs folks come from historically the counseling professions, right? We come from the helping professions. We're not into technology historically. It's not part of the culture of student affairs. Mm-hmm. And we don't see ourselves as marketers. We don't see ourselves as PR people or as communications professionals. Yet, a lot of what we do is steeped in that, right?
Yeah.
And so I had probably 10% were, this is exactly the area we want to be talking about. Absolutely, do we need endowed student affairs positions that are fully funded because of donations, because of an active and strategic student affairs advancement unit? I mean, it's position, it's a department, what have you. And then, you got the folks in the middle sort of saying, okay, maybe this is a possibility, or maybe we're doing this at our school and this is some ideas. And you've got the other folks, the 10% that says, this isn't for us because this isn't where, sort of why we got into student affairs. That was a comment yesterday from someone says, years ago when I went to grad school, this isn't why I went into the field. And so I think the analogy,
technology piece?
Exactly, the technology piece, the communications piece, and the analogy that I shared was libraries and librarians.
Right.
A few years ago, everyone was sort of signaling the death knell of libraries. Well, librarians and the associations that support them sort of did this amazing strategic pivot.
Yeah.
And they made it so that it wasn't about the buildings. It wasn't about the books necessarily, the physical space. It was about the value and the service and the connections that librarians make and the services they provide, the value that they add to the campus. And so it became about the position versus some of the sort of old tried and true maxims about what a library has to be.
Yeah.
I'll
say Joe made a comment. I'll get to it in just a second. But one thing that I think we also have some conversations on, which we had conversations on, and we talked to Ed about it. I talked to Justin about it today. Is I think we're looking at technology as this kind of magic elixir, as like that's what's going to save us from whatever's wrong with us, right? Mm-hmm. But that it's really like that's the tool, that's the new tool. It used to be, I don't know, smoke signals and carrier pigeons and writing on the chalk on the side of chalk,
stone tablets,
bulletin boards, fire. I mean, whatever. And so it's the new tool we have, and so we need to not just look at it as a technology competency, but a communications competency, right? So when Ed does these great talks about creating a social media plan, the tools are interchangeable. If Twitter goes away, Google Plus comes in, you can change them out. That's not the point. Is that we're developing better communication methods of talking with each other.
Well, it's almost as if we're trying to instill a culture of creativity, a culture of innovation, so that, like you said, the tools ebb and flow, they change, they evolve, but we're almost entrepreneurial. We almost have sort of that startup feel to us, so that we see new technologies, we ask the question, is this applicable to the work that we're doing? We don't automatically say, I just don't do that, or people bring up FERPA as sort of the shield against having to learn new things, because everyone sort of takes a second glance when they hear FERPA. Joe had a question or a comment. What was he saying here?
Yeah. That was retweeted.
Yeah, he disagrees with many of. Let's see, Joe Jennings says that we're informers, don't know how to market things particularly well. Absolutely. I mean, how many of us in student affairs have said for years, we've got these great programs, we've got these great services, but we can't get students to access them because they don't know about it. There is that marketing component to student affairs. There is that communications component. I think largely, and when you say this is officially called the NASPA Technology Conference, or NASPA Student Affairs Technology Conference, but it's really almost student affairs communications. A large amount of the sessions are social media focused, and social media is a communications platform.
Because Joe also said another comment. He says technology is no different than a pen. It all depends on the user, how they choose to use it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I said this earlier about email, right? People are saying, well, email, no one's checking email, students aren't using email, it's a dead format, whatever. I think in part it's because we never really learned how to use email effectively, and we gave up on it because, again, communications technology, it's not in the culture of student affairs, and so it's easy for us to say, well, email didn't work. Well, we need to understand the dynamics of something like email.
Right.
It's the same thing with social media. Social media will be very similar, because if you use social media, say Facebook or Twitter, and it's not just those two sites, but a lot of folks use them. If you use it just like a bulletin board with the fluorescent pink paper, it's not going to work. It has to be tied to your strategies, your outcomes, your goals. What does success mean to you?
Yeah. One thing I love that they did at this conference is they really changed the vendor area. Mm-hmm. And so there's not a lot of vendors. There's 15, 10, let's say 10. There's 10 vendors, and they actually have demonstration areas. They have chairs you can sit around, and it's not the biggest space, so it can get kind of loud, everyone talking at the same time. Right. But I love the fact that they actually are giving sometimes the vendors to do at certain time periods, like you sit down and you watch the demonstration of what they're doing. So
Yeah.
a little audience for them. You can sit down in a chair. They provided kind of large video screens for all the vendors to do that.
Can we Command Plus this so I can actually read it? And then we'll swipe it over. No, that's okay. Go in here and then swipe it over.
And so I thought that was great for the for the vendors and for us to come and see what these tools are.
Yeah, I think it's a different environment when you sit down in this sort of mini theater style, and it feels like you're getting to know the companies versus you're at their booth and they have literally 10 seconds to give you your pitch like you do in a normal exhibit hall, and it just feels like there's this wall between you. And I think with this, even if you're not necessarily that jazzed about some of the products, you still get to know the people behind them, and then in turn, that's when you get to think about, okay, how is this applicable to the work that I do? Joe has a comment about email. So let's say this. When it comes to student affairs communications and email, because email is not dead, right? It's still here. It's not going away. If it is dead, it's a zombie, right? That's what I say all the time. It's especially with Halloween coming down the pipe here.
Right.
Email is a zombie. Yes, it's dead, but it's still coming after you. We should use blogs as sort of our social media platforms for delivery, right? For content delivery, and then use things like MailChimp or FeedBurner to take that RSS feed from our blog and get students to subscribe to those posts via email. Mm-hmm. So we're taking this awesome content that we're creating, because we create content all the time. Great YouTube videos, awesome posts on Facebook or on Twitter or blog posts. Our students aren't finding it. So one way to get them to it is to create an e-newsletter and then kind of cut out all their extra junk, right? When too many people have access to the fire hose of email, then it's 800 emails a day and students get overwhelmed. So
MailChimp is becoming more social. Like there's ways to share socially an email that comes through MailChimp. So if you send out information that's worth sharing, which is the key, this is not just drone on about this stuff. Like send an email that's worth sharing. A student can share that snippet on their Facebook page, Twitter accounts, and those kinds of things.
What's about just sort of thinking about what we do in the context of how the technology can help us? It helps us become more efficient, get the word out, make connections. I mean, Towson University, their new event calendar has social media callouts on it, but it's the kind of thing where it's not just the icon, it's got the like button on an event. So let's say you're a student and you say, oh, I like this event, I'm going to go to this event, you hit the like button, and then your friends see it because they're connected to you on Facebook. And so then that's one way that they sort of get more bang for their buck, using social media on a very traditional platform of an event calendar.
Any other takeaways from this first event?
I think the biggest thing is just the relationships. I think, for folks who are here, I hope they really make connections that are long lasting. I know Leslie Dare is here from NC State, and she has been a proponent of student affairs and technology.
One of the originals.
Exactly. Yeah. She's one of the ones who's been fighting this fight for a long time. And the other thing too is, you've got student affairs IT folks and then student affairs folks who are more sort of student development folks. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. I think we all need to be playing together much more often. I think this event, it's interdisciplinary. It's sort of eliminating silos that have existed for a long time within student affairs. So, kudos to NASPA again for putting this on. I think that it's potentially got enough energy now to keep coming back year after year. We put this on, get different vendors to come in, sponsor this or that. I think that I went to EDUCAUSE last week. And the folks at EDUCAUSE, the vendors there, the companies, the Blackboards, the SunGuards, the Pearsons, they don't know about us. And so I think they really need to know that we exist, because there's a lot of opportunity for us to utilize what they've got going on, and there's a lot of opportunity for them to learn about what we're doing.
One thing that'll be interesting, it will be interesting to see how this continues. And we hope it does, and we hope NASPA continues this. And then in what format does it continue? So do they have the same type of formats? Because here they have the regular sessions, the shorter unsessions, they have the longer laboratory institutes. Yeah. It's like a 2-hour block of a session. So there's different types of sessions that are like. What I'd love to see though is, because we hear a speaker and then we start talking in the hallways, and so there's these other areas we like to explore, and so it would be really cool if we could have like blocks of time that are unscheduled to have kind of the true unsessions, right?
Right, with dry erase markers and
so like those of you who want to talk about this issue, if you could come over here, and those of you who talk about this issue, go to this room and kind of explore these things a little bit more, and we're having those hallway conversations, and I talked with Justin for a while and missed a lot of the vendor areas because we were talking about those things, but ways I guess the venues to explore these other things besides the dinner and lunches and those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, this is such a new event with such a different crowd of folks that there are those of us that have known each other virtually for a long time, but there's a lot of people here that I've never seen before. I've met them before, and I want to meet them, right? This is the community that I think we've all been yearning for in many ways, and I think that's where the unsession format, regardless of if we're doing it right or whatever, I think it's the sense of it's participatory and it's a conversation, and literally they need to make the rooms almost the round sort of circular setup, because we need to be talking with one another. And I have a session, when is it, Saturday, on the future of student affairs and technology, and I don't have a single slide. That's right, you heard it here first, folks. No slides, no PowerPoint, no keynote for me. It's just going to be me having a conversation with the room, because I think that's almost more important right now than the sage on the stage.
Is there anything that you've heard, like during your, I guess, almost 24-hour period here, that you're going to now include into that? Like, have you heard something that's like, oh, I didn't think about that, I'm going to put that in here?
I think
someone breaking through your wall?
I know. I don't know what's going on here. We've got 5 minutes left before they get to us here. Fortifications. No, Ken Elmore's talk. He's Ken's the dean of students at Boston University, and Ken was really talking about the need for us to just be willing to try new things, be willing to explore new technologies, sort of seek out the outliers and the areas that might seem controversial, because Ken talked about we try to seek out and create community, and social media is a great avenue for that. Right. But it's a constant sort of churn in higher ed, especially when it comes to creating community. So I think for me, it's about how do we use technology, because at least the stuff I'm interested in, it's how do we use technology to create more avenues and areas for community building. Because student affairs, we have to evolve, right? The technologies that are out there, online learning, blended learning, flipped classroom, all these different things that are happening in the academic side of the house, we have to be paying attention to them, because there's stuff that's available in terms of opportunities for us. I mean, look at lecture capture. Lecture capture and orientation. Think about all the logistical things. Think of the things that go in students' bags, right? The plastic bags where they get during orientation. And think about lecture capture, and you get students to watch stuff or to access content before they even set foot on campus.
I'm trying to put all my orientation online. We have half. We moved half our orientation content online, which is the kind of talking head stuff that you get through orientation. Mm-hmm. So when the students do come for what we call orientation, it's more fun, engaging, light. They can still meet with those people, ask them questions, but to get the kind of talking heads off the stage, put them in an online format. And because let's not kid ourselves, they don't remember all that anyway.
No, I mean it's too much, right? It's there's repetition that needs to happen, and I guess the other takeaway would be data. We talk a lot about the communications aspect, but there's a lot of data when it comes to technology that student affairs folks haven't accessed. You talk about Blackboard or the learning management system and everything that is being tracked, and all the things that we could do with it. I mean, sometimes folks will talk about enrollment management as being separate from student affairs,
right?
But I see it's all wrapped up into one giant family of student affairs. So the data tracking capability, true rich analytics, that's going to be interesting, especially in the context of online learning, because what we do in student affairs in the brick and mortar space is markedly different than what you do in student affairs if you're an online only, or you're the online person who's doing student affairs for an online program. Mm-hmm. And professionally, association wise, in the literature, I haven't heard anybody talk about that yet. Not in any legitimate capacity. So, folks, thanks for tweeting. I think we've had some comments and some viewers, and maybe like 2 or 3 people watching through a phone modem, most likely. I think that's probably what I've got to say. I think it's day 2. There's still a lot of sessions to go on this afternoon, and there's panels and some sessions tomorrow.
Lunch to be eaten. I know we're both, our stomachs are growling. We're really hoping that the microphone isn't sensitive enough to hear that.
But honestly, Jeff, thanks for coming on this mini Student Affairs Live. I think that for me, it's always fun to have you on and talk about stuff.
Yeah, it's like our own little dignation.
It
We
really
need
is.
an extra computer.
I need a laptop, right?
Yeah.
I need a laptop, and what's with this art behind me? I just don't know.
Since dignation's going away, could we claim that, maybe?
We could. I mean, I'm sure the URL is up for grabs,
Yeah.
right? All right, folks. My name's Eric Stoller. This is
Jeff Jackson
And this is sort of the Student Affairs Live
/ break drink.
awesome video of epicness.
Yes.
Thanks, folks.
Hashtag that.
See you next time. Quick shout out to the Higher Ed Live Network. That's right, Student Affairs Live is part of the Higher Ed Live Network. Folks, Student Affairs Live would not be possible without the generous support of Integral. We're actually commercial free on Ustream because of them. Actually, the creators of the Schools app on Facebook. Be sure to check out their webinar series about how they can help you leverage Facebook to increase yield and retention.